Hello, everybody. Welcome in to another Indie Comics Talk. Tonight, I have with me John Holland, writer and creator of the Diebold Comics imprint, writer of some very fun and emotional comics, I would say, especially A Girl and Her Dog. But tonight, we're talking about Alma the Champion. Welcome in, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I also have to note a local to my area here in the New Orleans area.
Yes,
And
right across the lake from you.
yeah, and that's how we met. We were talking. Talked on Twitter, but you were over at Fan Expo New Orleans recently, and we met in person there, and I was able to pick up some of the comics here.
Yeah.
So I like to start out with having people tell a little bit about themselves, how you got into comics. You've probably got a long story of creating comics too, but I guess when did you start collecting comics, reading comics, and when did you start creating? And then we'll kind of go do a brief of the history. Not you don't have to tell everything there.
Yeah. We may be more than an hour if that's the case.
But shout out to Hernan, your artist here.
Hey Hernan.
Had him on the channel when we talked about Cover the Dead with Lime. Coming from
Hernan is amazing. He's awesome.
Yeah, him and his. I feel like his colorist Damien often does colors for him when they do the colors.
They've helped me with even books that Hernan hasn't drawn. They've helped me like get the books together, and package them, because I was doing all that myself in the beginning, and I am the worst person in the world to be doing anything like that. And I managed where it looked not too bad, but once Hernan and his crew took over, it upped the look of the comics so much better. And Damien did a lot of coloring. Damien did the coloring for another book for us too, called 2 Tons of Fury, which is coming out through Antarctica Press, which was kind of like, which is like taking like some public domain characters, Herbie and Fat Man, and he made it look like it was a book from the 60s, the pages and everything. He just did an awesome job with it. So I'm just kind of getting off topic off of it.
No, that's okay. We wanted to shout him out because he's awesome. And shout out to Cole, who's watching in the chat. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about, I guess, the brief history.
Yeah, I've probably been collecting comics for as long as I can remember. I think I started reading them I can't remember a time when I wasn't reading, something. Even when I was a kid, my parents enrolled me like in a book club when I was probably like 5 or 6, like a Dr. Zeus book club. And I've read forever, I've read everything. And comics was just one of those things I started reading, in the beginning. One of the first Marvel comics I remember reading was probably Daredevil 50, I think, was like Barry Smith's introduction to Marvel Comics, when he looked more like Jack Kirby than his real style.
Okay.
But even before that, I was reading like what was it, the Three Musketeers and Wendy and Casper and all that. So I've been reading comics forever. And once I kind of started reading Marvel, that just kind of started collecting that, read some DC, but I became more of a Marvel zombie, I think, for a while, like through the 70s. And I was able to grab some of the older books, because at that time the 60s books weren't that old and they weren't that expensive. So I actually went back and filled in a lot of my collection. But the 70s were kind of like, I think, my prime time for reading Marvel. Steve Gerber, Steve Englehart, Marv Wolfman, Tony Isabel, all those guys were like, I think they were creating some of the coolest comics out there. Even today, I love some of that old stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people who go back to that era and read through that a lot.
Yeah, and Steve Gerber was like, I think, one of my biggest influences, because a lot of almost everything I write, even if it's serious, I throw in some really just off the wall or weird things. And that kind of comes from, Steve Gerber, Howard the Duck, and even his Defenders. I don't know how familiar you are with his Defender run, but
not super.
he had he had a group that they fought called the Headmen, which were really some strange characters. And so he's always been one of those, character, he could write serious comics, but there was always a humor or a little offbeat slant to him. And
Yeah.
I think I see that in a lot of my writing. Stan Lee, of course, because, he was the beginning of Marvel. And then probably, that led a lot to just wanting to write comics, wanting to write, period. I used to read a lot of early science fiction, Isaac Asimov,
Yeah.
Harlan Ellison. And, when they would, especially Harlan Ellison was more of a short story writer. And his books, his introductions sometimes would be as long as the stories. He would talk about, why he wrote that story, what was going on in his life. And Asimov did that too with a lot of his short story collections. And that was just, I think that kind of sparked something in me too, just the, seeing that behind the scenes of, them writing. And it made me want to write. And, I've always been a really big fan of comics, and that just kind of drifted into wanting to write comics. And back in the late 70s, I kind of started getting my published through some companies like Fantagraphics and Innovation, Kitchen Sink, different companies like that, kind of like during the black and white boom, which was, I think, in the, and that just kind of led to, I think the first thing I self-published was a comic called Diebold, but it's nothing like, it was more of a fantasy humor comic. And that title just, I really like that title. And then when I decided to create an imprint, I just thought that kind of fit really well.
Like, all right, we'll come back to this name and use it in a different way now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started creating way back then, and kind of as you're going from reading into creating, and now you've been creating for many, many years.
Yeah.
Lots of different things on your own imprint with Diebold, and then, like you said, through those other publishing companies.
Yeah, and even today I'm still doing. I did like It's a Girl and Her Dog. I actually self-published it, but then It's Alive Comics published it. I've got, like I said, I have a story, something coming out through Antarctica Press.
Yeah.
I'm doing a few things through Antarctica Press. So and then I'm talking to a few other comic publishers also. So I kind of like to keep that mix, some self-publishing, some, it's nice to have a publisher, because then I don't have to, front that bill and everything.
Yeah. Well, and then sometimes the companies love it when they see that you've self-published it, it's got an audience, people are reading it, people enjoy it, and they say, hey, maybe we can get this to a broader audience. You've already created it. We don't have to do any more creation process. We can just print it out and do it.
Yeah. And that's kind of how A Girl and Her Dog, because I had self-published it, and then Tony Isabella, who created Black Lightning,
okay,
he read it and gave me a really, really good review. He actually called it like one of the best comics of 2022. And Drew Ford, who was the publisher of It's Alive, had seen, because I post on Facebook all over the place. And then he knew Tony, and he had seen Tony's review of it. So he actually contacted me on Facebook and asked to publish it. So that was kind of cool. It was like, that was the fastest deal I've ever made. I think within 5 minutes, he had sent me a contract. I signed it, and the deal was done.
Wow.
So, and then, he published it. So, which, and that's a book I'm really proud of, because I think it turned out really well.
And it seems like a personal story as well.
It is a lot of it. Yeah. A lot of it. I had a friend that her dog had just died probably the year before. And, I had a dog, Buffy, which Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which kind of will tie into Alma.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Yeah. She passed away about 6 years before that. And I was kind of taking a break before, and I just got a new dog. So it took me about 6 years for me to kind of, decide, all right, it's time for a new dog. But I've always had a dog pretty much all my life, except for those in-between times. And so I've had her for, I think, 2 weeks right now. And she's like, I forgot how exhausting a puppy is. It's like, I'm so tired.
I definitely get that. They are pretty exhausting. I had a dog pretty much like all the time growing up, but since I've been away from home, I haven't. I've just recently got a cat in the last 2 years. Always had a cat growing up too.
Yeah. I'm
But the
afraid to get it.
animal connection that
Oh
comes
yeah.
through from that
Oh yeah.
story anybody who's had any pet will connect with a story like this.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, it's one of those stories when I sell it at conventions, it's kind of hard for me to describe. It's like because when I say, well, it's a dog after it dies, I always make sure it's like it's not a horror story. The dog don't come back as a zombie or or,
Zombie dog. Hey,
it's
that's
kind
a
of
new
like
take on it,
yeah.
That's the horror take on it. So the one we're talking about now is Alma, and like you said, there's a little bit of a maybe Buffy tie to it in a way.
Yeah.
So what is Alma the Champion about?
Well, the tagline I use for it at conventions because everybody is what if Buffy was a 72-year-old grandmother? Because everybody, even people, when I ask them, I say if they've ever watched Buffy, and so a lot of people will say, especially I find a lot of the younger people haven't watched it, but even if they
Yeah.
haven't watched it, everybody knows who Buffy is.
So
I mean,
the tagline right there.
Yeah, Buffy's become like an iconic character. So that when I use that tagline, it grabs people, and it's like almost everybody will buy a copy when they're like, oh my god, that's and that's kind of what it was based on. It's actually started from a Facebook group, and I can't even remember what Facebook group it was, but they were talking about, why whenever like a wizard or the powers to be or whatever decide that, they need a champion or they need a warrior to come, do something, and it makes sense. It's always a young, viral,
Right.
strong person. But somebody made a comment, just a joking comment. Well, what if it was somebody's grandmother that got the power? And and everybody was kind of the rest of that thread was just joking about it and stuff like that. But I read it and my mind went off on a completely different tangent. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, let's check this story out. What happened?
Yeah. And that's where it was born. And it just kind of started from there. I decided to, make that character, the grandmother. A lot of it's, some of it's based on my mom, and my dad. It's some of it's very, brought in some personal things. And my mom is one of the strongest people I ever known. I mean, she was 75 years old and she was out in her yard like chopping down trees and stuff. She's like
Yeah.
her age is finally just kind of caught up with her. She's like 87 right now, but up until just a few years ago, she could, outdo anything I could do. She'd be out in her yard. She'd be washing her home. It'd be like, I'd be telling
Yeah.
you can't be doing that type of stuff.
Yeah. Some people they never stop. My grandma, she's like around 90 and she's always on the go.
Yeah.
And there's no stopping her.
Yeah, exactly. So I used a little of that, and because my mom's name is Alma too. So when I was trying to think of a name for the character, it just kind of hit me. I was like, that's the name I want to use for it. Plus it's a kind of an old fashioned name. It's and it kind of fits that character, I think, a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. So with this Kickstarter, Hernan's on the art on this, and
Yes.
One thing I learned recently is another local creator, Leo. He's doing the letters on this project.
Yes, Leo stepped in, and we had it lettered, and it was a good lettering job, but I think Leo just kind of took it to the next level.
Yeah.
He's relettered it. Really looks really good, and he's done a really great job. And he did it really, because he just took over like really quick, so he got it done really quick to get it with this Kickstarter. So,
and he's been like, I think probably the last couple months is when he's really been trying to make more moves into doing more lettering, and I've seen him posting more of his like lettering samples and things, and I know he's been picking up projects here and there. I'm excited to see what he does with the new lettering on this.
Oh yeah, he did a really good job, and I've kind of known Leo off and on for like quite a few years. He used to publish a newspaper called Anti-Gravity Magazine,
Yeah.
And he used to do little conventions and little shows, and this is, I don't even know how many years ago this is now, but
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of his shows and stuff, and honestly I never really realized he did lettering until he texted me. I posted on Facebook. I was looking for people to do write letters because I wanted to put a letter column in the issue.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he said, "Oh, I'll write a letter for you." And then we kind of started talking, and he mentioned he was a letterer and that he would, be glad to take a stab at it. And like I said, he did a really awesome job with it. It's, he broke some of those balloons into like more than, up and just, he
More
did
than just
it really,
balloon.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lettering is, people don't realize how important lettering is to a comic. It can make or break a comic.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, like the lettered version on Global Comics
Yes.
that I looked through. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good, but I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes there's the good, and you can kind of read a comic and enjoy it, and you just don't even notice the letters. But then
Yeah.
there's when you take the letters and it enhances the script, it enhances the art, and
Yeah,
brings
and
it
I
to
think
another
that's what
level.
Leo did. Like I said, I think the first lettering in it was good. It was passable. There's nothing wrong with it. But Leo kind of took it to that next level.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
enjoy actually paying attention to the letters the more I read comics.
yeah,
Especially some of the like indie letters that are out there. There's some really good ones that I think do better than the letters that you see at like Marvel sometimes.
yeah,
Because they're just like, hey, I can go way outside the box. I don't have to worry about what Marvel editorial is gonna say about this
yeah,
lettering. I can have fun with this.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like like Saga, the lettering in Saga, I think they do a really good job in it.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you get to read this last issue that just came out?
No, I haven't been to comic shop yet.
Ah,
Oh, that's, yeah.
good.
Saga is like my I think one of the best comics out there.
It's
Yes.
so good. But yeah, like you said, the lettering, like the narrative lettering,
Yes.
but yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like the handwriting. I
Yeah.
love that.
Hazel's narration. Yeah.
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 Uh, but yeah, thinking outside the box kind of lettering, I think definitely enhances a project, and
Yeah.
can't wait to see what happens to it. Take this to that enhanced level here.
Yeah. I did that in another comic called Robot Sex that I do. And one of the one of the main characters speaks basically in, I don't know what you call it, picture graphs or emojis. He doesn't speak any actual
Yeah,
lettering and stuff. So that kind of threw when I thought about that, I was like, Roman Gupsky is the artist. He does the lettering and the art in it. And I was like,
yeah,
he may not like me after this because I'm sure that's a lot more work putting in all this in the little letter balloons.
yeah. So that became like more of an art thing on the letters, or
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. Everything he speaks is like, like an emoji or a picture or something.
fun.
Yeah, it just made it. I kind of just made it a little different, I thought.
So with Alma, do you plan to make this like an ongoing thing where you're going to
Yes,
continue the story and almost
yeah. The second issue's already written.
nice?
Uh, about a quarter of it's drawn.
Okay.
Uh, the fourth or fifth issue is already written. So
Skip
yeah,
the third
it's
issue.
yeah.
You know where it's going later, but you're not
Yes.
sure yet how it gets there.
Well, actually, I've written the first two issues, and the issue that I'm thinking maybe the third or fourth, and I may still do this, was going to be issue 25. I was going to kind of like jump ahead and just print something that, like,
Okay.
kind of like, because the first few issues basically bring together almost like, I call it, like Buffy had her Scooby Gang, and this is going to
Mhm.
be like her version of the Scooby Gang. So,
Okay.
the second issue brings in another character, the third issue brings, so I kind of thought, I don't want to take all this time to I'm going to introduce them, but so I said I'm going to do issue 25 where they're already all together, and it's all so yeah,
So it'd be
I don't
like
know
that,
if I'll get to issue
you get them
25.
together, you
Yeah.
jump ahead, and then I mean, you don't even have to change the number. It can still be issue 4, but it's now years in the future,
Yeah.
flashback maybe here and there to show how they built
Yeah.
trust or, you know, whatever. I
Yeah.
kind of like that. I kind of like that a little bit, especially if you've got, you know, where you want the story to go down the
Yeah.
line, but you don't necessarily have to draw it out to get there.
Yeah. But if we can keep it going, yeah, this could be a long-term project, you know. Hopefully the Kickstarter will make enough money that, you know, I can pay the bills with it and go to the next issue. You know,
Yeah.
if it makes a lot of money, that's even better. But you know, we're only going to ask for like I think $3,000. You know, enough to you know, so I can pay her and pay the printer,
Yeah.
and move to the next issue. So you know, it'd be nice if I can just kind of keep paying things. I used to pay for all this out of my job, but I just recently retired, so I don't have that extra income anymore.
So
Uh,
now over to the Kickstarters.
yes. And I've
Which
been
I mean
wanting to do a Kickstarter for a while, but I've always been kind of scared of doing it just because I just, you know, it looked like a lot of hard work and just a lot of not
for
sure what
sure.
I was doing with it. And, you know, and like even this one has been a lot of hiccups and a lot of issues we've had. So hopefully the next one will go a lot smoother.
Yeah, yeah. I know you're saying you wanted to launch it before a little
Yeah.
bit of technical difficulties, but should be tomorrow. Should be if
Yes. Yeah.
all goes well.
Yeah. Yeah. I shouldn't say it, but I can't see anything else, you know. We've pretty much got the video already done. We just have to get it uploaded and everything now. So we should be ready to go tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah, I dropped the link for anyone watching to be able to go over there, click the save button on it. To, you know, you'll get notified when it launches. Um, whatever time tomorrow that ends up being.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm afraid
be
to
able to,
give an exact time because I don't want to jinx anything, but it should
yeah,
be
no,
early. Should be in the morning before noon for sure because I want to get a good, you know, get a good first day on it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would say with you know the story idea, love the concept of what's going on and everything in it, and then I think with Hernan's art and the potential for some of the, I would say, the monsters and
Oh
creatures
yeah.
that are being fought, I think
Oh yeah,
Hernan's
it's
perfect
it's worth
artist on this.
it's worth it just for Hernan's art. You know, Hernan's is just really. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm amazed. If I could lock him in a room and just have him draw for me forever, you know, I would. But and you know
Hernan, watch out.
but I see his stuff on a lot of other stuff too, and he's really amazing. He
Yeah.
is really good.
Well, it was Cover the Dead with Lime that originally introduced me to his art, and then
Hmm.
actually it may have been another comic that I got right before that was through a Kickstarter, through like the Afterlight Comics.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking.
I
Yeah, it
can't
was.
remember the name right now,
I
but
think Blood Moon is actually reprinting that too.
okay.
I think I could be wrong. Don't you know? But I thought I remember her name was telling me about that. You know, but
Yeah, I know he's got another one coming through Blood Moon soon. Stray Sheep, I think. Is
yeah, and we're actually working on another comic too, besides Alma. That we're gonna I'm gonna kickstart that, or I may actually I'm looking at that other site too, Zoop.
Zoop?
Uh,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a
to see how they do. You know, I may go through Zoop for that and just kind of get an idea of which one. You know, compare the two, Kickstarter and Zoop. So.
yeah. We now have Kickstarter, Zoop, crowdfunder, and then Backer Kit actually started its own
Oh wow.
platform besides just being like a tool to assist with
Yeah.
Kickstarter. So there's options out there across the board. I think of course Kickstarter has the, I guess, established piece, but I think
Yeah.
the more people go on to these other platforms, the more established they become, and I think they all are great options.
Yeah, and I think I'll play around with it. Like Zoop, you know, seems to help you out a lot more in the behind the scenes stuff. You know, they have
Yeah,
a little more not control, but you know, do a little bit more on that side,
I think
which
they do some of the printing, if I'm not mistaken.
they may. You know, I've just started kind of looking into it, and I just contacted them because, like I said, I've got this other book with Hernan I'd like to get out. You know, too.
Yeah, yeah,
I
no,
could have Hernan draw almost, you know, half my stuff. You know.
Hernan's a busy man.
Yes.
Working on so many different projects. I keep seeing his name popping up more and more. I think, did I see something that he's got coming from Behemoth soon, or not Behemoth?
Yeah. Well, he did a cover for
Variant.
them, I think. I don't know if he did the comic
The
or just did
cover.
the cover.
There was
Yeah.
something I just saw. Now I gotta look, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I while we're kind of on the line of other projects, let's talk about some of your other books. I know I've only read the couple here, the
Mhm.
Voodoo book, A Girl and Her Dog, and uh, Alma. What are
Yeah.
some of the other books that you got, and who might find them interesting? I guess what types of audiences.
Like I kind of mentioned before, I have a book called Robot Sex. I have 2 issues of that out right now, and contrary to the title, there's no sex in the book. I always kind of make sure that nobody real. It's not an X-rated book. It's a set in the far future, and it's a science fiction. I guess science fiction fantasy kind of story where I'm kind of throwing everything in it. I really enjoy it. Roman Gupsky is doing the art on it, and he's really good. And we did 2 issues. I'll probably kickstart that so we can start doing the next issue of it too.
Do you do like
And
a combo issue 1 and 2
I think
special?
so. Yeah, I'm thinking so. Because since we've already got 2 issues done, because that's my biggest worry with a Kickstarter is if you only do a single issue, you don't have that many pages, and you can't sell it on Kickstarter for $5. Because
Yeah,
you're gonna go broke. So we're doing Alma for $15, but it's gonna be 40. I think I'm up to about 44 pages right now. We've got the 24 pages, that was in Alma.
yeah.
I've did another 8-page story for it.
Okay.
We're gonna have a letter page. We're gonna have pinups, and I'm also even gonna have I think a 4-page cookbook in it too with Alma's recipes.
I
So
like that.
yeah, I
I
just
like
wanted it
good.
to be, I wanted people to feel like they were getting a really nice package for it and not just 24 pages I mean, I think a lot of people
Yeah.
that do Kickstarters realize that a lot of the people that buy stuff, but it's still, to me, it's, $15 for a 24-page book is just really hard for me to look at.
It's definitely hard. I see some range. Sometimes I see some do it for 5, but then they have variant options that are more expensive, or they
Yeah.
throw in like these metal covers, or you get the art, and I think some of that stuff offsets their like really low cost.
Yeah, but it's
Uh
just,
it's like a weird
that
balance.
my worry is at the end of it that we make our goal and then I realize I don't have enough money to, we didn't make enough for me to print and send everything out.
Oh yeah.
I actually at Fan Expo we were at they did a uh, uh, panel about kickstarting, and they were talking about the people that were on the panel were talking about how they started it before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, everything went up so much in price that by the time their Kickstarter was over, they actually ended up having to pay money out of their pocket to
Oof.
finance everything because cost of printing it and everything has went up so expensive.
Yeah. No, that the whole time period, everything just
Yeah.
got so much more expensive. That's definitely a struggle there with
Yeah.
the
Well, the
Kickstarters.
one of the good things we can say about Alma though is it's done. So if we make our goal,
Mhm.
the only delay to get to people will be, us, the printer, and then me packing it up, which
Yeah.
hopefully won't take that long. The printer I use is usually pretty fast. They've slowed down a little bit because of some of the issues from the pandemic, but otherwise they were getting my books within about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
you
Seems to have
know,
a pretty decent turnaround.
yeah, definitely. So, there is Kickstarters that, have taken years to fulfill. So this one will be
Yeah.
fulfilled pretty quick. Like I said, it's all done, it's finished. All I gotta do is put it together, get it to the printer, and then pack it up. So that all should go hopefully pretty quick once it's over. So
Well, I think that also that helps you as a first time Kickstarter to
yes.
then build that trust with people to be able to put it out so quick.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to, because coming on my first time, I didn't want to say, "Oh yeah, we'll get it written and we'll get it drawn before," because like I
Yeah.
said, there's one Kickstarter that I don't ever think I'm going to see it. I think it's probably running at least 5 years old or more for me. You know,
There's definitely some creators out there that care more about other things
yeah,
than actually putting their comic out.
yeah.
But I think isn't there also like a Rob Liefeld one out there too that still hasn't been
I
fulfilled?
don't know. There's a few out there.
There's some high profile ones that
Yeah,
haven't been fulfilled, and that I feel like that's just taking advantage of the
yeah,
fans.
yeah.
But the people that I feel like I interact with a lot on Twitter, have on the channel, they've they eventually, they've done a great job. Some of them are super efficient like that. It's like once it's printed and in their hands, it's out the door. And
Oh
some of
yeah.
them already have the whole story created. Some are funding it, of course, to pay their artists to
Or
then
as we
create
go
it. And
along, yeah. But
so they put out that reasonable timeline. But I do have like one of the first comics I backed on Kickstarter, or not necessarily first, but one of the first. Um, Still have not gotten it. It's supposedly shipping currently, but its first issue just went on shelves like from Image Comics.
oh wow.
And I'm like, cool. I don't know why I'm not getting this. And there's another one that'll be hitting shelf soon from another company
Yeah.
that I won't get until the summer.
Wow. We're
And those,
actually I'm actually talking to a publisher too about actually publishing Alma too. So
yeah,
I think if the Kickstarter, because a lot of publishers I think look at Kickstarters now, and if I have
mhm,
a successful Kickstarter, I think that'll help, maybe convince them.
agreed. Yeah, no, I've seen some a creator I have on quite often, Travis Gibb. He had Granite State Punk on
Yeah,
Kickstarter that did really well, and now Scout Comics has picked that up and is putting it
yeah,
out this. I think it's in March. It'll be out.
yeah. I do. I don't know Travis, but I'm Facebook friends with him, and I see a lot of his stuff coming out. Yeah,
Yeah, no, so he's. I have another one of his books in the background here, Coins of Judas. But yeah, like that model, I think is. I honestly think that's the way going forward with publishing. We've
yes,
had companies not paying creators, and or there's like big delays in publishing a comic because funds aren't going to the artist to create. So if it's already created, like you got a whole series created, funded through
yeah,
Kickstarter, publisher can say, "Hey, we'll pay you. We'll create a contract, whatever, but we'll pay you based on sales or whatever. Let's put it out there.
yeah. Oh,
All we
I
gotta
think
do is
yeah, I think it's
print
going to
it."
be a good way to go. It helps. Like I said, I was able to kind of fund my comics before, but even that, I mean, I didn't have that deep of pockets. I had, I was able to get print them and pay some of the artists and stuff. But
Yeah,
Kickstarter will be a big help. And then it's the publisher can if you have a good Kickstarter, they see there's a built-in audience. They're a little more, I think, inclined to say, hey, we can take this and maybe make it a little bigger because, our reach
mhm,
is a little bit larger. So I think
yeah,
it's a win-win all the way around. So I'm,
yeah. I
I'm,
honestly, go ahead.
I'm kind of, I'm dreading and excited for this Kickstarter, just to, because I'm scared of
Yeah,
what it'll, but I've got hopes. I think it'll do, fairly well. I think it'll at least make its goal, maybe a little over the goal,
yeah.
and we'll be able to continue the book.
I think and I see this a lot of the times is if you're able to create it, put it out there, get the money for the next one, and then just
Mhm.
keep building up the base of people backing it on Kickstarter, then
Yeah,
it's successful. As long as it kind of gets that growth each time where more people can keep reading it.
yeah, and then I do a lot. I end up trying to create a lot of stuff. So if I can kind of start doing different Kickstarters, I know there's probably a limit on how many Kickstarters at a time, but like I said, I've got robot
Yeah.
sets. I've got a few other titles that I'm working on or that I've done. I did the Marie Laveau book that you have.
Yeah.
That was just like a little 8-page, kind of story. But I do want to do something longer with that character, with that person, because she kind of, especially being in New Orleans, it's a,
Yeah.
it fascinates me.
There's more story there.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's yeah, I've did a series with another artist, Ayla. I did 4 issues of that, which I'd really love to bring that back too. The first 4 issues kind of told the first storyline, but I've already got the next 4 issues plotted out.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen creators take something like that and put out a trade paperback version of like that first part, and then
yeah, and that may be something I do, because I did a trade myself, but I only did a few issues of it, but go through Kickstarter, see if there's people will enough interest in it to do the next 4 issues or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're saying, Kickstarter tends to kind of like, once you build up, I guess, establish a reliability within Kickstarter, then you can start kind of having multiple things. You can't. I think you can't have 2 active campaigns, but you can have one like that's not 2 or 3 that are not fulfilled yet.
Yeah.
While you're actively going to the next thing. If you follow Pat Shand, he's a great example of that, where he's putting the book out. It may take a little bit of time with his art team to fully put it together, but it's always coming.
Yeah.
And so Kickstarter says, hey, we saw you do this before. We saw you keep this coming out. And so then once you get like the first couple projects out, Kickstarter says, all right, go, go, go.
Yeah. And then like we were talking about, there's, Zoop and all these other places too. So, I may use both of them. I may do something on Zoop. I may do something on Kickstarter just to see how things do. Like I said, I've got the next project with Hernan. I'd like to do a crowdfunding, and then I've also want to do robot sex. So I've got a few things. I want to see how this one does, and I've got a few things kind of sitting in the wings to try to crowdfund. And I'm actually part of a group called Exile Studios, which is Travis Smith created it, and it's kind of just a group of writers and artists. And we're going to be doing some kickstarting books through there. I got 3 books, I think, from them that's going to, that are in process by different artists that we're working on.
Okay.
And,
yeah. So, and that, if it's through them, then it's, you're not the one doing the fulfillment side of things, and that allows more projects to happen.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm always, part of my problems, I have to rein stuff in sometimes and try to just concentrate on certain things, because I get the ideas and then I want to start writing something about it, but
for sure. Yeah. With all these ideas floating around in your head, where do you, I mean, I know you said you get some inspiration from the writers back in the 70s. Where else are you pulling these like inspirations from to create?
Anything can be an idea, it's like I said, I got the idea from Alma from Facebook. Robot sex kind of came to me. The title came to me from, there was I think it was an HBO show. What was it? Love, Sex, and Robots, or
something? Was it Netflix? They had the an anthology show.
Yeah, I never seen it, but I remember when it came out, everybody was talking about it, and I thought that title was kind of, and I was looking for a title that was very, that would grab your attention, and and I kind of had the idea that I wanted it to be between, a robot and this woman, and it's just the relationship between them and their travels and the things that they meet. I'm working on I just came up with an idea from kind of like a young adult type series based on a historical character. It's going to be historical characters in this comic, but it's not going to be anywhere near historical accurate. It's because it's kind of taking these characters and just creating, it's a little bit you can see in the history fiction. But, but not even like, a lot of historical fiction tries to be accurate, at least, like, this is when this person was alive. This is when this person was alive. But I'm taking characters and kind of like fudging. Okay, this character is going to be alive maybe 4 or 5 years after they really died, because it's going to be kind of a fantasy look at it.
I was gonna say more like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter than
Yeah, yeah, not
than
that
something
in
else.
that sense. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that was just because I like to read a lot of history, and that idea just came to me, from some reading something, and I was like, oh, this would be kind of a cool take on this.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Alternate
then
history.
sometimes, if I'll read a book or a story and I'll really like it, and I'll be like, oh, I wanted to create something, but I don't want to be like that. So I'll take that idea and just basically, by the time I'm finished with it, you don't ever see the original inspiration, but it may have been inspired by something. One of my favorite books right now out there is what is it, by Matthew Rosenberg? What's the furthest from here?
What's the furthest place from here?
From here, yeah. I love that book.
It's great.
And it's so, I mean, it's so original, I think. And I keep trying to, I'm like, I want to write something, but I don't want to write it like that. But it's like,
So
I
I
don't
could
know.
probably have a
That's
copy
going to
somewhere behind
inspire
me.
me somehow to do something, because it's just, that's become one of my favorite comics since I picked
Yeah.
that up.
I've been really enjoying it. I stopped at the end of like the interlude, and then
Mhm.
I'm gonna move to reading it in trade paperback form. But
Yeah, I'll
I
probably do that. Yeah. Just
that's
because it's the comic shops now, it's just getting so hard to, my local comic shop is basically went to subscription only. There's not, they're not putting anything new out, and
are you with Umbrella over there?
no showcase.
Showcase. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Uh,
'Cause I heard
yeah.
Umbrella. So you're over Slidell area because
Yeah.
Umbrella in Covington. I
It's in
heard
Covington. Yeah. I've been there
was
once or
not
twice,
doing.
but I heard they were doing that too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really, you got to come over. You got to come over here to get new stuff, I guess.
Yeah. I'm
You
probably
always,
going to come more to BSI
yeah, I'll be the closest one. I'm over at Crescent City,
okay.
which is Leo's shop.
Okay.
Leo sometimes works there, sometimes is just hanging out there. But yeah, I'll say either one of those is gonna you if you have like one or two books on pool, you don't even have to pop by till too frequent.
Yeah. I don't like putting too many books on pool, because I like to see what's out there, and I may read a book for a few issues, and then the writer may change or the artist may change, and I may decide I don't want
Yeah.
to read it anymore, or the way the book is going, I may say, oh, I'll read this, especially more of the mainstream titles.
Mhm.
I don't hardly have anything on pull, or read a lot of the Marvel and DC. But
Yeah.
if it's something interesting, I'll pick it up and may read it for a few issues, and then decide, okay,
Yeah, I
you know,
mean DC, I have one book on pool, and that's Dark Knights of Steel, which
okay,
is like this fantasy alternate universe version of the DC universe,
okay,
which sword and sorcery kind of stuff is fun. So I love it. I love what they're
yeah.
doing there.
I have a few. Anything Tom King writes, I'll follow.
Yeah. So you've been
Even
reading
though
Human
some of the
Target.
stuff. Yeah, Human Target. I've been reading. Supergirl was really, really a good
I've
book.
heard good things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I liked Adam Strange yet, or Strange Things, or whatever it was. Stranger
Strange Adventures.
Stranger Ventures. Yeah,
Okay.
but he was he wrote one of the only Batman that I've read in years. I know a lot of people. He was very polarizing, I think, for Batman.
The first 50 issues of the like current Batman run.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, uh, but I enjoyed his Batman a lot. And he's
Maybe
doing
I'm talking.
Human Target, and he's doing Danger Street right now, which is a weird book.
I've heard good things about Danger Street.
Yeah, I
Is
only
that
have the first issue so far, but it was interesting.
it's Black Label, right?
Yeah, I think so. Most of his books,
Uh,
I think, are Black Label now, because
Yeah.
he kind of writes outside of continuity, you know.
Yeah.
And then Tom Taylor, I'm reading Nightwing.
Yeah.
He's just doing such a fun job on Nightwing that
I have the first 2 volumes of it. I haven't read them yet, but I have them because that was
yeah,
one of those DC books that everyone was like, "You need to read this. You need to read
yeah,
this." I was like, "All right." I went
yeah.
and
Him
bought
and the
them.
artist on that, they've made it a really fun book to read, and they've done a good
Yeah.
job with Nightwing's characterization. And they're about to do Titans, which will probably mean, or he's about to do Titans,
Yeah.
and Nicole Scott. I think, is going to do the art on it. And so
Yeah.
that means I'll probably have to pick that up.
Yeah,
So
I
at
mean,
least,
with him already writing Nightwing, bringing
yeah,
that into to Titans is gonna be good.
yeah. At least I'll pick it up the first issue or two, and that's why I kind of like the idea of just picking stuff up off the rack, because I may read the
Yeah.
first couple issues and it may not,
You don't want it necessarily on
yeah,
pool at the moment.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then plus, being things on the rack, I find a lot of stuff like what's the furthest place from here? I would have never tried it probably if it hadn't been on the rack, and I just looked at it and said, all right, what's worth giving a try
Yeah.
for it. So that's how I found a lot of books over the years, just picking stuff up. And I
Oh, yeah.
realized, there's probably like 500 comics coming out a month, and nobody can carry
Yeah.
all of that. So it's rough. I
It's
understand that.
yeah, I feel like it's definitely tough on the shops to figure out what to order, what book's gonna be the popular one, what's gonna pop off and sell
Yeah.
really well, when there's so many options out there. But I feel like, more people read the previews catalog and tell them what they want, which
Yeah.
I know even that it's hard to sift through that and find what's gonna be good as
Oh yeah.
the
Well,
reader.
and look at the previews catalog is so freaking thick that I think A Girl and Her Dog, when it was published through It's Alive in the catalog, probably wasn't until like page 400 or something. So how many
Yeah.
comic shops probably gave up before they even got to page 400?
Yeah,
You
I
know,
always I've been, I don't purchase the catalog because I would end up just with stacks of catalogs in here, and I
yeah.
don't need that. But I'll flip through it in the shop, and I'll go through and I'll just take a picture of the ones I'm like, I need this, and
Yeah.
I try to flip through all of those small publishers because I know those are the ones, one, that need more support, more readers,
Yeah.
but two, that's usually where there's a lot of hidden gems,
Oh yeah.
that people don't know about.
Yeah.
So I always encourage people, anybody watching, go read the previews catalog, go look in the non-image boom, Marvel, DC. Like, I feel like those four probably get the most attention. Look in the other
Definitely. Yeah.
areas. Look at, even I would say Vault and Aftershock, they get well known, IDW, Dark Horse.
Yeah.
But the areas where it's like they got one comic or maybe
Yeah.
two comics, they need some love.
Well, think about like, in today's market, like books like Bone and Cerebus and books like that would have probably had a lot really they could have just disappeared. There's so much stuff
Yeah.
out there. I
Yeah.
mean,
They need
they're also
need some.
very good, so hopefully the quality would have found a home too, but sometimes it's hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think that also then coming back to kind of your project here at the Kickstarter market and getting the word out about the Kickstarter projects helps. Then maybe it's already got this following by the time it hits the previews catalog. People know about it and can talk about it more and tell their shop to get it, and
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. So hopefully, yeah, Kickstarter should put a few more eyes on it. And like I said, if that helps, get it picked up by a publisher, that will get, make it a lot easier to, get more eyes on it. I've done a lot of, I post on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I do a lot of
Yeah.
posting for it. So hopefully that'll start drawing some attention to it for the Kickstarter.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody that's watching this not live, I you have the link to the Kickstarter down in the description, so go check that out. If you're watching live, you can click it from the chat as well, to go save it because it'll be launching, if all goes well, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. With like progression of the story, I know you said you want to keep it going and tell more of Alma's story. Any weird ideas for like creatures and monsters that you can mention, or without like spoilers, like this is a big plot point?
I'm bringing in some, and I'm not sure. Probably it's not issue 2 because I've already written that. Issue 3 probably are going to be some life-size talking ravens.
Could be fun.
And That's I kind of, as I go
Yeah.
along, create the monsters and stuff. I kind of like to try and find some things that are a little more offbeat, more than just the vampire. That's one thing I'm trying to stay away from, because
Yeah.
I tied it so much to Buffy that I
Well, you
don't want
also
to do
kind of make
vampire.
the joke that, oh, they're not all they're not all
Yeah,
vampires.
exactly. Yeah. And in the first issue, I kind of, you know, addressed that head on, the whole Buffy thing, because I
Yeah.
was like, I don't want people, do put this out and people think, oh, you're just ripping off Buffy, So I kind of addressed that, like, Alma and Tyrone actually talk about that, in the very first
Yeah.
issue. So, it's I'll never not admit the influence of Buffy, because Buffy's one of
Yeah.
my favorite TV shows. I watch every few years. I watch the complete series again. I rewatch it. My last dog's name was Buffy. So, Buffy is
Yeah.
important to me, and I really enjoy the comic, but I'm not trying to make a ripoff. This isn't Buffy,
Right.
even though the tagline is "What if Buffy was a 70-year-old grandmother?" This is not Buffy as a grandmother. This is a completely
Oh,
different
yeah.
character,
Yeah. Well, that
and
would be that would be, I guess, maybe that could be interesting if we actually got Buffy as a 72-year-old grandmother, but
yeah, yeah,
that's a whole nother story to be told.
exactly, yes. And when I sell it at a convention, I try to, sometimes I have to throw that in, because when I use that tagline, I've had a few people think, "Oh, Buffy," and I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
it's not really Buffy."
Inspired by, but not a direct
Exactly, yeah.
Buffy story. Yeah. Um, on your website, I was trying to remember, is there somewhere that people can pick up some of the past comics if they're not in the area, able
It's going to
to?
be dieboldcomics.com. I'm in the process of. I had a Diebold Comics website, but where I had it, the servers was just costing me too much.
Yeah.
So I'm moving it. Well, I'm not moving it. Actually, I have this friend of mine that I met on Twitter. He's actually doing all, because I'm not very computer literate. He's moving it for me, and the site is up, but it's not complete. Like right now, we're actually in the process of creating the store. So I will have
Okay.
all the comics, pretty much all the comics, up on the site. I've got T-shirts and things like that. I do, when I go to conventions, I do T-shirts, or some of them. I didn't have any at
Yeah.
Fan Expo because my table spot wasn't big enough. Uh, but I try to do some of the T-shirts. I've learned that actually has helped me at convention sales, because it takes a lot of $5 comics to make up my table and
Oh, yeah.
hotel percent, and things like that. But if I sell a $25 T-shirt, I go a little further along, but then again, the T-shirt costs a lot more to make, so there's a balancing act on that. Because I'm
Yeah,
actually
for
doing
sure.
a Fan Expo in Atlanta at the end of next month.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, since I've retired, I'm trying to do at least one convention a month, if not more. So I've hit Atlanta. I may be in Atlanta twice this first 6 months, because I've been approved through a Fan Expo and then MomoCon.
Okay.
And then I may be in Orlando for MegaCon. I'm not sure yet. I've got my
Nice.
application in for Fan Expo,
Yeah.
and he said there were some opening spots, but he wasn't sure, what was filled and what wasn't. So I'd like to hit
Possibly.
that. And
Yeah.
I'm doing a few local library shows. I'm hoping to get into Livingston coming up. I think the beginning of February.
Okay.
There's a show in Houston I may get into the beginning of April. I'm not sure yet. Um, so
I
yeah,
know like,
I figure anywhere kind of within a 6 to 8 hour drive. I'm not too,
yeah.
I'll hit. Except now, I say that, and then I actually did. I'm doing Heroes Con
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in June, because that's just
I
one I've always wanted to do, but it's always been Father's Day weekend, and where I worked before, Father's Day weekend was a weekend. I worked in retail, and that was like almost
oh,
like our Christmas. So
yeah.
I couldn't ever get off. So this year we're going to go, and plus, from what I've heard, it's a really good convention for comic books.
I've heard the same, and I am hoping to also be going to that one as well.
Oh, awesome.
Uh,
Yeah. It's a little drive, but I figured that one's going to be hopefully worth the drive.
yeah. May Maybe it could be a drive. I haven't thought about that yet. I may need like to turn around quickly though, so I might have to fly.
Yeah. Well, see, I can't. I'm going to be bringing too much stuff with me.
Right.
I need to. And then
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Merchandise doesn't fly as well.
Yeah, I'm doing. In Memphis, they have Comic Expo in September,
Hmm.
and I'll be doing that. And that's another convention that's basically just comic oriented. They don't have like movie stars. They don't have all these other people. It's all comic. I was supposed to do it
Yeah.
last year, and they had like Scott Snyder was one of the guests, and they had a lot of really
Nice.
big name guests. And then my mom got sick, and I was like, I couldn't do it, but they were actually very, very nice about letting me push my table to this year, because a lot of conventions will tell you that if you don't, you can't make
Yeah.
it, you lose your table. And I kind of expected to hear that from them when I told them I wasn't going to be able to make it. And they were very nice to
Good about
let
the
me do it this year.
circumstances surrounding it, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'll be there this year again. Or, I did it before the pandemic, and it was always a really cool show.
Yeah, no,
So
I mean, I'm trying to go to more that are like the very comic focused ones, because like, I mean, I'll go to Fan Expo here every year, but
yeah, but there's a
uh,
lot more
it,
besides comics.
the comics are very minimal, and the comic creators I feel like don't get advertised, don't get talked about. There's no like you said, Scott Snyder was at the one, but there's no Scott Snyder coming to Fan
But yeah,
Expo New Orleans.
yeah. You need to
Um,
check out Memphis. It's called Comics Expo,
okay,
because it's very comic oriented. Everything that
yeah.
it is very comic, and Memphis is only like about a 6 hour drive from here. So
Yeah, I've
it's
gone to Baltimore Comic Con the last 2
I
years.
haven't did that one yet either. Was
It's
that a good one?
very good for comics, very good. There was
Yeah.
like maybe there was like a 4 voice actors, like I almost wanna say
Okay.
like Disney princess voice actors, and
Okay.
the rest was comics
Was comics
or like
cool?
retailers or, things like that.
Yeah.
And I think the first year I went, there was nobody besides comics.
Oh, that's pretty
But it was
cool.
also like COVID was, and ending, and all of that was going on, and so people were hesitant to come back to cons
But
at the
yeah.
moment.
Yeah. The
um
Fan Expo is all right, but it's never one of the shows I do a lot of money at. You know, I'm hoping
yeah,
Atlanta may be a little different, but it's people are there. They're already, by the time they get to that show, they've already spent $500 to get their autograph and picture taken, and they don't have a lot of money
yeah,
left to spend on comics and stuff.
yeah. It's all the people at Fan Expo, like the celebrities and stuff, is just very very pricey, and it's not the
Yeah.
stuff that I come there for. What's funny is I opened up the Memphis Comic Expo thing. Is a giant picture of Scott Snyder, like
Oh
second
wow.
it loads.
I think this year they haven't.
That's
They've only
funny.
announced a couple guests. But I think Garth Ennis is going to be there, and
Okay.
uh, Alan Davis. I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
And then one other person they've announced. I think. So
Nice.
yeah, they do a good job mixing new creators with like a lot of the old creators too. They'll have a lot of some of the older guys there too. So they do a really good job mixing it up.
Yeah, they've got Brian Polito and Kevin Eastman listed now
Oh,
also.
okay, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, Garth Ennis and Alan Davis.
Yeah,
Huh,
so I'm
very
looking
cool.
forward to it this year, because I really was looking forward to it last year, and then I missed it. So, but some things you just can't control.
Yeah. Let's say with looking at the cons that you're planning on go to, are you trying to look at like who else is going to be there to see if, hey, there's like people that would like this person's books are going to like my books, or is it more like I want to reach just a new market,
More
than
the
anything?
more the latter, because I've kind of burned myself out locally. Because if you look at some of the shows, the local shows, Showcase puts on 2 shows a year. St.
Yeah.
Tammany puts on 2 shows a year. Now they have one in Homa. RetroCon's doing 2 shows a year. It's like a lot of these shows I show up at, and people come up to my table and it's like, "Well, you haven't got anything new out." I'm like, "Well, I've only been out of 2 months. I can't put stuff
Yeah.
out that fast."
Yeah.
So
If you hit
I
up all
think I
those
need to,
shows.
yeah, I'm trying to get into like Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Texas, which all within driving distance, and to
Yeah.
get a little bigger, to get my stuff out to a little different market, see what I can, what I can do. I mean, I love the local shows, and I like the fact that, a lot of times I can just drive home the night, and spend the night and go back. But
Yeah.
it's, there's a lot of them. And, I've done every one of them every year, and I'll do each one. Like if it's 2 times a year, I'm usually there.
Yeah. I
I'm
haven't
trying to do a
gone.
few library shows because I've had some people. I've got a friend that does library shows, and he says he has some of his best sales at some of these library show cons. They're not really big, but you look at it, everybody in that library is a reader. If you're going to a
Yeah.
library, you want to read something. Maybe not necessarily comics, but you may be a little more willing to give it a shot. So there's one in Baton Rouge I'm going to be doing. I'm doing one in Hancock in Mississippi. Hopefully going to be doing the one in Livingston. And
Okay.
I think there may be 1 or 2 more. So it's a little different market for me, I think. So like I said, I've got to try to branch out and hit some of these people, besides the same people I see every other month.
Nice. Yeah, I pulled that one up too, and I'll also take a look. I see they have some featured guests and vendors and things.
Which one is that?
Livingston.
Yeah, I just applied for that, so hopefully I'm gonna. They said they still had some tables, so I'm hoping to get that. I need to follow up on that.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool to be able to get out there, reach new audiences and all that.
Yeah, well, I've got more time on my hands before because before it was a little harder to get the time off sometimes to do the conventions. I try to do one a month, but a lot of them are more local just because I didn't have the chance to really travel as far,
Yeah.
every month to, because I had to get back to work. My
Oh,
only
sure.
problem now is since I bought this dog, I've got to figure out where I'm going to do with her when I travel.
Yeah, that's fair. Unless the dog wants to go on travels too.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to get her trained where where I could bring her. I see a lot of pets at some of these conventions, behind the table. So who knows?
Yeah,
You may see me at my
absolutely.
table and I have this big 70-pound lab back there.
I'm gonna drop the link one more time for anyone that may have hopped in later in the chat and watching. But Alma the Champion starting tomorrow on Kickstarter, if the technology gods allow it.
Yes.
Where can people follow along with you to see what you got going on?
Twitter, I'm under Diebold Comics. Facebook, more probably under my name, John Holland. I do have a Facebook page for Diebold Comics, but I really haven't used it too much. I'm so used to using my regular Facebook page that I really need to branch off. But if you follow me on Facebook under my name, you'll see everything I post for Diebold. Twitter, I have an Instagram account for Diebold Comics. I also started Hive.
Yeah.
But I was really big on posting at first because, everybody was so scared Twitter was about to fall apart. And then, Twitter is still going. So and then Hive had some issues for a while where I couldn't even get into it. But that's another
Hey,
place I'm
Lonzo.
kind of doing. So you Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, you can pretty much find anything. And then dieboldcomics.com, which we're in the process of getting back online. Diebold Comics my website will be, I'll have my comic and then I'll have at least 4 pages that people can read, free. And then I'm on Global Comics too. You can buy like PDFs or downloads of Global Comics of pretty much most of my books too.
Perfect. Yeah. Global Comics, I think, is a good upcoming digital platform.
Yeah. And they're very easy to work with. Some of the digital platforms I've tried to work with, I couldn't. Like I said, I'm not that computer savvy. So if you don't make it easy for me, I'm lost. And Global Comics makes it really easy to download and put your books up there. And they seem to have a pretty wide. They seem to be growing a lot. So
yeah, I think Comixology is also kind of imploding, or something's going on there. They're firing half their staff, and Global Comics seems to be pretty creator friendly and trying to make sure that things go well. So
yeah, and I've been pushing Alma on Global Comics for the longest time. You could read Alma for free on Global Comics, and she was in the top 20 of their horror comics. So
nice.
Yeah, I was pushing that pretty hard for a while, just to, because I think a lot of people, even if you read it for digital, if you want, they'll still buy the physical copy.
Yeah, if you like it enough, you're gonna come find it and get that hard copy.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure.
So hopefully that'll happen. That I just didn't lose a lot of people that would have bought it because they could have read it free.
Yeah, I thought the Comixology was dead as Amazon let go. Yeah, it's still, I mean, it still functions, I believe. I looked the other day, but after other than functioning, who knows?
Yeah, I'm wondering what's going to happen with all these people, if they're going to continue their new, where they were actually printing new stuff. Like Scott Snyder, all his comics were coming through Comixology, all his new stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
he can't be happy about that.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how long his contract was. Maybe that's running out soon too.
Yeah.
And so that'll end the time of his comics coming through there, and then going. Dark Horse, I think, was who
was
that
printing
contract
most of them. Yeah,
went to print through. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know he's got one still coming out digitally right now, at least, maybe two. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, he won't have any problem finding homes for him. Somebody will pick him up.
Yeah. They'd be stupid to let that platform die and let him go.
Yeah. I don't know. Amazon sometimes just seems to be shooting themselves in the foot on some of this stuff.
Yeah. Who knows? But thanks again for coming on, talking about Alma and all kinds of random comic stuff that's come up along the way.
Thank you. Oh, I always enjoy talking comics.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everyone who's been watching. I think a couple more hopped in at the end, so appreciate that. And anybody catching this later on the replay. Have a nice night, everybody.
Thank you.